Hi friends, today we will be looking at Hera, the Greek queen of the gods, who is probably best known as the jealous wife of Zeus. But who was Hera to the ancient world? Was there more to her than people give her credit for today? Let's find out. Hera, or Here in Greek, was the Olympian queen of the gods and the goddess of marriage, women, the sky and the stars of heaven. She was usually depicted as a beautiful woman wearing a crown and holding a royal, lotus-tipped scepter, sometimes accompanied by a lion, cuckoo, or hawk. According to myth, Hera was one of the daughters of the Titans Cronus and Rhea. Being a daughter of Cronus, she was swallowed by her father just like his other children, but was released when Zeus forced Cronus to disgorge his siblings. From early times, Hera was believed to be the sole lawful wife of Zeus, king of the gods, and soon superseded Dionysus, who shared his ancient oracle at Dododa in Epirus. The marriage between Hera and Zeus acted as a prominent part of her worship under the name Hieros Gamos. On that occasion, all the gods honored the bride with presents, and Gaia gave her a tree with golden apples, which was guarded by the Hesperides in the garden of Hera. From her union with Zeus, Hera gave birth to Hebe, the cupbearer of the gods, who eventually married Heracles, Ares, the god of war, and Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth and midwifery. Hera also gave birth to Hephaestus, the god of fire and blacksmiths, either with no father or fathered by Zeus. Ironic for the goddess of marriage, Hera had a very unfaithful husband in Zeus, who had many affairs that angered her. One of these was the Titan Leto, who Hera pursued relentlessly during her pregnancy and commanded that no place allow Leto to give birth. The island Asteria took pity on Leto though, where she gave birth to the twins Apollo, god of music, and Artemis, goddess of the hunt. Another version though says that it was Poseidon who took pity on Leto and guided her to the floating island of Delos, which was neither mainland nor a real island, where Leto was able to give birth to her children. Afterwards, Zeus secured Delos to the bottom of the sea. The island later became sacred to Apollo. Zeus also seduced Io while she was a priestess of Hera. When Hera discovered them, Zeus turned Io into a white cow and swore that he had not had sex with her. Hera demanded the cow from Zeus and assigned Argos Panoptes, the all-seeing, as its god, who tied the cow to an olive tree in the grove of the Mycenaeans. Zeus instructed Hermes to steal her, and Hermes killed Argos with a stone. Hera then sent a gadfly to pursue and constantly sting Io, who fled into Asia and eventually reached Egypt, where Zeus restored her human form, and she gave birth beside the Nile to a son, Epaphos. Hera proceeded to ask the Curetes, the gods of the wild mountainside, to kidnap the child, which they did. When Zeus found this out, he killed the Curetes, while Io set out to find her son, eventually locating him in Syria. In another myth, Zeus fell in love with his priestess Simone when he saw her bathing in a river and started to visit her in secret. Hera discovered this when Simone became pregnant with Dionysus. Appearing as an old crone, Hera befriended Simone, who confided in her that her lover was actually Zeus. Hera pretended not to believe her and planted seeds of doubt in Simone's mind. Curious, Simone asked Zeus to grant her a blessing. Eager to please her, Zeus promised on the river Styx to grant her anything she wanted. She then demanded that Zeus reveal himself in all his glory as proof of his divinity. Though Zeus begged her not to ask this, she persisted, and he was forced by his oath to comply. Zeus tried to spare her by showing her the smallest of his bolts and the sparsest thunderstorm clouds that he could find. But mortals cannot look upon the gods without incinerating, and she perished, consumed in a lightning-ignited flame. Zeus then rescued the fetal Dionysus by sewing him into his thigh, and a few months later, Dionysus was born. Despite the many tales depicting Hera as the jealous wife of Zeus, vindictively pursuing Zeus's many lovers, Zeus listened to her counsels and told his secrets to her rather than the other gods. Despite being queen of the gods, Hera was inferior to Zeus in power and had to obey him unconditionally, and, like the other gods, he reprimanded her when she offended him. According to Homer, Hera, Poseidon, and Athena once contemplated putting Zeus into chains, for which Zeus not only threatened her, but beat her. Once, he even hung her up in the clouds, her hands chained, and with 2 anvils hanging from her feet. As such, she was frightened by Zeus's threats, and gave way when he was angry. So when she was unable to gain her ends in any other way, she had to revert to cunning. Hera was worshipped across the ancient Greek world, and was worshipped in 2 main capacities. First as the consort of Zeus and Queen of Heaven, and second as goddess of marriage and of the life of woman. This also made her the protectress of women in childbirth, and she bore the title Aletheia, the birth goddess, at Argos and Athens. At Argos and Samos, however, Hera was even more than Queen of Heaven and marriage goddess. She was also the patron of those cities, which gave her a position corresponding to that of Athena at Athens. These 2 cities also claim to be the location of Hera's birth. According to tradition, Hera had disputed the possession of Argos with Poseidon, but the river gods of the country decided to give it to her. Although her Argive ritual was more agricultural, she also had a celebration there called the Shield, and there was an armed procession in her honor at Samos, which resulted from the many functions attributed to the patron deity of a Greek state, in that a city goddess had to be chief in both peace and war. Hera was also worshipped as a virgin. There was a tradition in Stymphalia in Arcadia that there had been a triple shrine to Hera the girl, the adult woman, and the separated. In the region around Argos, the temple of Hera in her mind was to Hera the Virgin. At the spring of Kanathos, close to the city of Nauplia, Hera renewed her virginity annually, in rites that were not to be spoken of, which has been interpreted as a possible representation of the new moon, in the form of Heb, the full moon, in the form of Hera, and the old moon, in the form of Hecate, respectively personifying the Virgin in spring, the Mother in summer, and the destroying crone in autumn. Though the greatest and earliest freestanding temple of Hera was the Heraion of Samos, her most celebrated sanctuary was situated between Argos and Mycenae, at the foot of Mount Euboea. The vestibule of the temple contained ancient statues of the Charities, the bed of Hera, and the shield which Menelaus had taken at Troy from Euphorbus. The temple also contained a colossal statue of the seated Hera, made of gold and ivory. She wore a crown on her head, adorned with the Charities and Hora. In the one hand she held a pomegranate, and in the other a scepter headed with a cuckoo. There were also temples to Hera in Olympia, Corinth, Tiryns, Perachora, and the sacred island of Delos. Hera's importance in the early archaic period is attested by the large building projects undertaken in her honor. The temples of Hera and the 2 main centers of her cult, Samos and Argos, were the very earliest monumental Greek temples constructed in the 8th century BCE. According to scholars, both Hera and Demeter have many characteristic attributes of pre-Greek great goddesses. They also suggest that Hera had some sort of earth goddess worship in ancient times, connected to her possible origin as a Pelasgian goddess, that is, a goddess of the predecessors of the Greeks. The animal especially sacred to Hera was the cow, while her sacred bird was first the cuckoo and later the peacock. She was represented as a majestic and severe, though youthful matron, and rode a chariot drawn by 2 horses, while in Hellenistic imagery, her chariot was pulled by peacocks. She is sometimes also shown as holding a pomegranate, an emblem of immortality. The Romans identified Hera with Juno, the protector and special counselor of the state. Thank you so very much for watching. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoyed this video. It really means a lot. Till next time, bye bye.